Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful day. So, I was just in deep thought or meditating, whatever anybody would call it. And I was thinking about a few things. And now that I've been able to map out different things in history, I've now noticed that Egypt was one of the beginning gardens. And through history, I'll explain, but Egypt was one of the beginning gardens. And when you had the institution of kings and pharaohs, it became utterly corrupt. Well, after that, throughout time, you would then have the Hyksos. So I would say like pharaohs or Egypt had become the dragon. Then you will have the Hyksos or the Semitic people come in. That's when you will have the real beast. And then you have the false prophet with the two horns. That would be Greece and Rome that spread it up to Europe. So I'm gonna explain something real quick. I've showed you guys a lot of different history and different stuff, so I'm gonna walk you through it. At first, you will have the beginning mankind. They didn't have anybody teaching them. They were learning from their own. So you will have people like learning and doing different things. But in the midst of doing this, you would probably have them the one aspect of humanity is, and when I say humanity, I mean men and women. That's why I don't just say man or woman. So the aspect of humanity, we were probably worshiping gods and doing stuff like that, trying to figure out like how we do in this day and age when we try to figure out some things. We'll say like ghosts or all this other stuff and we can't explain it. We fill in the blanks. And so then you have an institution. What I've been looking up, the two beginning languages that I find is hieroglyphs and the language of Ge'ez, and that's from ancient Ethiopia, the Nile, and Egypt. And so these languages, I think the hieroglyphics might be much older, but the language of Ge'ez is 6,000 years old in this point in time. And so if you look this stuff up in history, it'll say like 5,500 years or 5,000 years. But if you pay attention to that, that doesn't logically make sense. Because if I was to say we speak English and it was a major language in 2024 or year 2000 AD, then I would be lying and not saying that it was actually invented almost like a long, long time ago, like in the thousands and stuff. A thousand, um, a thousand AD, and so that's like 1,000 years, right? And so, I say language is about 6,000 years old from my current history. And so then I said it's around 4,000 BC. I call that like Adam, beginning men, learning and building civilization and culture. Well, then you have around 3,000 BC, a man named Mean Narmer comes. Well, when I originally read the Bible, there were passages talking about where Noah was writing, where if you take the Lord in vain, it's blasphemy, and to kill who shed blood, and to do all these random things, you know what I mean, and putting fear and dread in people and all this other stuff. Now, I told you the word and spirit is just that, the word and spirit. And so a lot of times what people are doing is instead of saying the Lord God as I am, and then as the prophet that's walking is who I am at the time. So I'm not saying me, I'm saying that's how it's supposed to be. Even when you see Jesus walking, he has an I am, and then the one walking is the who I am, the spirit or whatever. And so when you pay attention to that, there was a man named Mean Narmer. And if you look at his laws, the same. He had the laws of Ma'at. And I represent her kind of like Eve, the mother of life. Because if you pay attention to that, of course, it's the flesh. But what I am saying is the flesh was led by Ma'at, which would have really been like an alternate goddess or something like that, a major goddess. And so Mean Narmer had brought this forth. Well, when Mean Narmer had did that, he he unified Egypt by conquering. I mean, utterly conquering a whole bunch of stuff. Now, pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. If he conquered and spread this law and did all this stuff, it's going to spread throughout the lands, and then gods are going to be major. You're going to have gods everywhere. So if you look at that manifested, if you look at all these different other places, they have gods in the ancient times, right? And I'm telling you, a lot of it started in Egypt, Africa and Egypt, the actually building of civilization. And so then you have another man come later in history after me and Narmer did all this, named Mentuhotep. I say he's like Ham or Hem 10. And the crazy thing about this, I say me Narmer is like Noah, because if you pay attention, He flooded the earth with stuff once he conquered and everything, and now it's all throughout the land. Well, then if you pay attention later down the line, Noah ends up cursing his firstborn, Ham, right? Africa and all this stuff. Look at what happened to Africa because of the pharaohs and the kings. And so now you have Ham, Mentuhotep II. I say, if you look at these names, each of them have either an I am or 10 or something, right? So Mentuhotep II, he basically reunified Egypt, but allowed all these other people to live. He let things prosper. He was a loving person. So I say he came at around day 3, because the first day, 4,000, would have been the introduction to writing and civilization. 3,000, mean Narmer, introduction of these major pharaohs and conquering and giving people wealth and doing all this stuff. And then you have on day 3, which is around 2000 BC, then you have Mentuhotep. I call him like Ham, the firstborn. So then he's doing it the right way, giving peace, clarity. I kind of think of it like the Renaissance, but that stuff has a lot of violence in it. But of course, history is violent. But at the same time, I'm not going to go back and say, oh, they're this and that for just no reason. I'm doing this for a reason because of things that manifest today. And so I call him like Ham, him 10. And so I call him like the phrase, I am who I am sent me. Of course, it's just the phrase. I'm not tying it to his name, but I'm going to bring up 6 angels and I'm going to explain to redeem the 7th Adam from the beginning spirit. And so I look at like Eve, kind of like Maya. She was like flying around and sending all these laws and stuff, and it was carried through by Cain, the flesh, right? Me and Armor. So then you have a man that has to unify and take away all away, him 10, Mentuhotep. But you see how these two got buried in the field. The first pharaoh, me and Narmer, hit his face in the field, and Mentuhotep is kind of like Abel. They slew him off the field. They're like, nope. But you get to the third one who calls out the name, Moses. He lingers on because he's even in that book. They hung him in the field. So now you have Ahmose, right? He comes around 1500, kind of like in the middle. Because what ends up happening after Mentuhotep comes and unifying, now these people who were first trained up by the Babylonians, who were first trained up by the Pharaoh, right, that spread all this foolishness through the land, they came back. I say that's like Abraham or Brahma Ham. And if you pay attention to that, Brahma was spreading all through Babylon and the Middle East and all that stuff. And all these heathenism and all this stuff. It was up in Assyria and it was down in Babylon. And so then it spread all through Canaan, and then it spread all through Egypt. Now pay attention to this. When Cain hid his face, he went and built a city, Canaan, right? So then look, now you have the Canaanites building up all these gods and stuff while Mentuhotep is unifying. Then you have the Babylonians building all this stuff up, right? Now you have the introduction to Israel and Brahmaham, right? And Ishmael. So now Moses coming later down the line because Abraham went to Egypt, had all these kids, Ishmael, Ishtar Mael, and then Isis Rael. So I don't know what other language to say this in. Some people will hear me. I am opening up understanding. He with understanding here. I probably should have said that at the beginning. Okay, so then Abraham comes, plagues Pharaoh. So he gives the wife of Pharaoh, he gives his wife to Pharaoh or whoever. It's the flesh. And so they went all into Egypt, the Hyksos. Now, if you pay attention, the Hebrews were Egyptian. They mingled into Egypt around like 1800s and stuff and was warring and battling. And then around 1500s, Moses comes after like 400 years of oppression, 300 years of oppression. Come on, man. So then you have him doing his thing. He unifies it again. He brings back Amun. Now, if you pay attention to that, outside of what people call gods, the idea of that God is the unseen. It's, if you transliterate that word, that's new am. And that also, if you transliterate I am who I am semi, you get Ham in the middle of that. So, I'm just trying to edify and teach people or whatever and give the best of my ability of this knowledge. And so if you look at that, him 10, Mentuhotep, and then Ahmose, who brought back the Amun, New Am, he basically did what he had to do, reform the kingdom, and saved the day and helped a bunch of people and drove out the Hyksos and all these other gods, and he built back the Most High. Well, then, if you pay attention, this is really prophetic or really symbolic. Then after him, you have a man named Amen Hotep or something like that. Now, I told people in the past over and over, when you say Amen, you're worshiping Egyptian gods. Not only that, this is all Egyptian lore and or all Egyptian words and writings. I'm telling you it is. And so that's why I don't argue with people anymore about certain things. I just keep talking, and sometimes I'll say something to them, and that's not my fault though. I'm being nice, and if something I say to you triggers you, there, what can I? So, anyways, the point is, I do not purposely go around trying to trigger people. I'm just saying sometimes when people attack or say certain things, they get what they're looking for through words. And so I don't got to be like, F you and you're this and that. And I'm basically saying certain things. So, man, one time he said something to me, and I was like, so if I tell you to F off, but see, I didn't tell him to F off. I asked him something. I said, if I tell you to F off, and then he gave the truth. He said all the stuff under words. See? And I said, speak with clarity, and woo, woo. It went from confusing questions to, oh, he wrote real clear real quick. And he thought it was because he was wise, and he don't even realize he listened to exactly what the fuck I just told him to do. You see what I'm saying? Dan told y'all in one of the comments, Moses has knowledge on deep psychological inception and knowledge. So pay attention. Because if you pay attention to the movie Inception, I can't make you do anything. All who I am can do is plant a seed. And then y'all will read the book and say, Yeshua, Yahashu, Yehanan, and Joshua. Right. Y'all will say, Jesus, or whoever y'all call him, is planting seeds, and that's good, and not to hide your seed in the field, and then call me the devil, right? But I am confident people won't do that, and I'm confident people are listening and understanding. And so you go further down the line, you have this Amen Hotep or something like that, and then directly under him is three Moseses, or not three Tut Moseses with that name Tut, and I told you about Tut throughout history. And so that's really prophetic. 3 times did you ignore the word or something like that, like what Peter professed. And so then you go further down the line, I believe those are the people that were writing algorithms and trapping people back into Pharaoh's kingdom. So then people wanted the gods over and over. They tore down Amos' legacy, and they started building gods again and started bringing up Mayat and all these other gods. Well, then you go further down the line, then Akhenaten shows up. And if you transliterate Atenism, that's 10 I ams. Atheism transliterates to the I ams. And so that's interesting to me. You got Akhenaten, who the Semitic people turned into Joshua when they later mixed into it. But anyways, the point is, then you have Akhenaten, who reforms all this. He tears down all these other gods. I mean, he legit. He takes them out the wilderness. No more gods. And it's the Aten. That's really prophetic. So he brings back all that. I call that the 10 Commandments or whatever. So then you go further down the line. Then after him, right after him, his son Tatu come in or something like that, who I call Saul, was advised by and Harumhub, the Samuels. They basically had him he loved his father, but he tore down all his father's legacies and all this other stuff. And he died at a young age of like 18 or something like that. But then not only that, what ends up happening is the pharaohs afterwards, and Harumhub, they end up becoming pharaohs. I think A died too at a young age. Well, or not young age, but A was pharaoh for a while, and then Harumhub was, and they basically tore stuff up. So then after them comes a man named, who I call A and Harumhub, like Samuels. They advised new people and brought new kings. So then you see they brought Saul, who they advised Tut, to Makin, and they basically brought forth David and Solomon later, who I'll explain. But then also, what did he institute? He instituted Ramses, who was like Goliath. Later, because of them, Ramses come forth. And if you read about Ramses, he was violent and oppressive, and he built all these statues and brought all these gods and did all this stuff. Now, before Amos, there was no pharaohs. I think Pharaoh got instituted with that when the Hyksos came forth and he had to reform. Well, then after that, people started taking this man's garment and treating him like God and started doing buffoonery and led right back into Egypt. Well, then, like I said, you go later down the line, you have Ramses everywhere. Well, then, later down in history, you have a man named Sunesis or something like that. I think that's how you pronounce it. And then you have Amenemot, the instruction of Amenemot. I believe that's like David and Solomon. But they even erased them from history too and then put David and Solomon there, and even through those words said they couldn't build the temple, because I think Sunesis brought back the Most High, Moon or something like that, New Am, and he built the temple, and he made a beautiful city and did all this stuff. But I think he got a priestess pregnant and had a side child, and he was like fornicating with a bunch of whole other priests. So I'm pretty sure he was like a womanizer. He's probably just taking women as he will. But I was not there to testify on that behalf. I just know what I have written in written history. So that makes sense with what David did as he got older, and he took the wife of these other people. So if you pay attention to that, he took these two gods into Mut and another god. So it was like a moon, Mut, and something else. So he brought in an idol and then caused a whole bunch of buffoonery. Well, then you have Amenemop, who wrote a bunch of instructions and wisdom and stuff. But then if you pay attention to that, the Semitic people took hold of that later on down the line and turned him into the Solomon or King of Solomon or something like that, and destroyed a bunch of stuff. And then the temple was ran, if you pay attention to that. So then after Ramses, because the reason it gets into these Semitic countries and stuff is because when these oppressive pharaohs come and these kings, they spread it throughout the land and forced them to do this instead of it being like Mentuhotep had, or like Ahmose, or like Akhenaten, something where like he's taking away the other stuff. Because if you read about Akhenaten, they hated him for taking the gods, but he was a loving person. He basically he fought all the bad guys, basically. He fought people that was oppressive. And so then you go later down the line, now it's in the Semitic culture, you have the fiery phoenix. The same thing from Mot, but it goes from the divine feminine to the divine masculine. And if you pay attention to the story of Mot and the ark that's built and all that, you guys are worshiping the same afterlife since Egypt. That's the ark. Basically, she has two scales, and if your heart has done more wrong than the feather, so if you transgress Jesus, you're going to hell or going to heaven. It's the same thing. It went down to the Semitic people, and all these Egyptian gods went down to them, and they had the fiery phoenix. Even if you look it up, it looks Egyptian. So then a man named Zoroaster came after all this stuff had brought forth, and he reformed the Middle East and Canaan and all these other lands. Well, if you pay attention to Zoroaster, that's basically Zerah, and then the Book of Esther, or Tribe of Esther. Come on, man. They took Zoroaster, tore him apart like they did all these other men. And so if you look at that, Joshua or Akhenaten basically would have given birth after him to Tut Akhenaten or Tutumakin, which is which would be the gold statue, because he tore up his father's legacy. And then you have Sunesis, who tried to build the temple again, but he messed up, who is buried in silver, because Tutumakin was buried in gold. Sunesis was buried in silver. And then you have it going down to the Middle East. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar came. Well, first, all these random kings in Judah and all this other stuff was doing a bunch of buffoonery. So I would say that's like the bronze. And then Nebuchadnezzar got sucked into this. So that's like basically the kings of Babylon and stuff once they consumed Judah and Israel, because Assyria consumed Israel. They took them in and tore them apart. Well, then Babylon consumed Judah. And then they took Zoroaster's words. Because if you look at Zoroaster, if you look at this in a prophecy, if Joshua, it was the real Judah, right? And then he gave birth to Tumakin, that would be like and then Sunesis would be like Onan, and then Solomon would be like Shelah. So then Amenemop would be like Shelah, and he said, I don't want to get rid of my last son, so I'll do it myself. So then what do people keep doing? Joshua, or they go back to the whatever, and they're saying Yeshua. So really, if you pay attention to that, then Solomon lived on, and he had all these Psalms and Proverbs and all this other stuff from Solomon. So then if you pay attention to that, but they still said the temple got corrupt, so then Babylon came and took it over and rent them and did all that stuff. So then you go later down the line, Zoroaster, he would be like the Scarlet Prince, the one with the ribbon. He created the prophets. Now, if Joshua created the 12 tribes, or if Joshua was dealing with the 12 tribes and got them out of Lulu land or whatever, Woohoo land, then basically he brought the stones together. Now, if you look at Elijah, he brought the stones together and had the fire that don't consume come down and lift it up. So that's symbolic for a couple things. I'm not going to talk about what it's symbolic for in terms of being an offering, because it starts to upset me. But if you pay attention to that, he brought the tribes back together again and united them. So then they had Israel and Judah. So they weren't fighting and all that, and they were cool for a while, right? So then later down the line, Babylon comes and he gets lifted up with the fire too. So Babylon comes and then consumes him and takes him and does all the stuff with him. But I believe Elijah or Zoroaster was the one that created all these prophets. So then that's his 12. He had the 12 minor prophets and the four horsemen, the four major prophets. So then he got consumed by Babylon. All that happened. You go later down the line, you have Perez, um, whose name is mine, John or Juan Yehohanan. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. So then if you look at that, Nebuchadnezzar came and tried to tear off Judah and all that, but then the 12 minor prophets and the four horsemen came. Then you go down to John the Baptist or whatever, when he tried to reform it again, when Greece and Rome came and took a hold of it. And so then he tried to talk to people and tell them about the name, the Most High, the I Am, and all that. But you see, they crucified him and took him off the planet, and then took his story and buried him and put him in the field as a slave. John the Baptist, baptizing the man God Jesus. It's John's I Am, trying to tell y'all. And when he says I'm the Son next to the Father, he's basically saying he's putting his I Am next to us, each of us. Each of us are the Father, if that makes sense. I'm not calling women fathers, but the Spirit. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, so John had the 12 apostles and the 4 gospels, right? So John and Elijah, the 2 witnesses, are like John and Elijah are like the 2 witnesses in the Revelation in that sense. Or not even in the Revelation, that Elijah or Zoroaster is the scarlet prince with the ribbon, and then John the Baptist is Perez or whatever. But then remember, the Scarlet Prince comes back at the end, the prophet, because it's good to be loving and forgiving, but no, the fires that don't consume have to come down, so to speak. Now you see how it's the fires that don't consume that's coming back? They was asking him if he's Elijah. No, he was Perez testifying on behalf of the word, if anybody can understand what I'm saying. So then you get down to this day and age. That's why I said Noah's the dragon, Aaron's the beast, and the false prophet, the body of it is Samuel, because he created kings. Then he created, so in real time, Mean Armor is the dragon. The beast is Amenhotep, and the 3 Moses is after him. And 3 times they deny, that's really prophetic. Sent people into the wilderness. Then the beast would be Aen-Haramhub, out the flesh, will be Aen-Haramhub. And then all the Ramses, which made Goliath, right? Then you would have his kings. So technically he had 4 kings. He had Aen-Haramhub, and then you had Saul, which is Tatumakin. Then you have Ramses, which is Goliath, and then the 2 feet that it stood on, David and Sunesis and Amenemot. Then you would have the mouth or whatever. So they're testifying falsely, or teaching people new bullcrap. And then the 2 horns is Peter and Paul, because Peter took John after he was dead, because how's he walking with John if he's crucified? And Peter ran, right? So 1 horn is Peter and 1 horn is Paul. If you don't believe me, go out in the living world and even talk about Jesus. They're gonna say Peter and Paul said, the apostles said. It's all just, and the body of the Lamb is all the people. I think the 12 apostles and the 12 minor prophets I think they was killed. I'm just being honest with y'all. I think they were lambs. And I think Zoroaster, I don't know if Zoroaster was killed, but I think for a fact the rest of them were killed. The body of the prophets. And so, yeah, I just wanted to give that little time lapse and like real history so people could kind of understand. Now, when I say the names of any of these men, or when I give this type of stuff, it's right on the table. Like you can see, I could go back and read reading this stuff, but I'm telling you all, there are sneaky algorithms there, and unless you make yourself the Most High, I Am, then anything else can have control over you. But in essence, all these other things are angels and things for my use. I don't advocate for cigarettes, sorry, but I smoke them. They are angels in my use. So somebody will come up to me and say, Jesus, this. I say, before Jesus, I am. But it can be an angel at my side to help me, because I know where it comes from. Or if I don't want to say Jesus, if I want to say Yehohanan, if I want to say John, whatever, Yeshua, at my side, not the Most High. So then, um, but even if you pay attention to that, I want to actually be very clear in this day and age because I want to keep it holy. The Most High, golly, the Most High is I am. So on the inside, and then the Son is the flesh, us, if that makes sense. We're the child that's produced. So I just wanted to make that clear. I think there's oh my goodness. I just wanted to make that clear or whatever. But whatever y'all got to do to live, you know what I'm saying? That's why I leave these 10 commandments and stuff, which is really like 24 fruits now. So yeah, I hope that can be edifying. I hope you guys, because I'm not coming and saying like, oh, religion, and all this other stuff. I'm just trying to clearly edify the word and baptize the spirit. So that way people can live and be happy again. So I hope you all have a beautiful life and just start to see more clearly. If you read these words for real, you can see why I call some of these men these words in this book, because they lead certain people to go to and fro to do certain things. And sometimes people can't see clearly like that. Even when I tell y'all, when you read my poems, my poems are poems from my heart. It's just, you see what I'm saying, poems and stuff. So I hope I can be clear. It's I am who I am. I am sent me. So this is weird because I read Noah and I started to tweak out when I thought about this, but he got off the ark at 600 years old. And in essence, all Noah did was all Noah is a character in a book written by a whole bunch of people, because it's really the ideas from Enki and Enlil from Babylon. And like I told you all, when me and Narmer spread all these gods out there, then you see what was produced in Babylon. So then it's Enki and Enlil, and what they did was they put it in a book and wrote an algorithm with it and created a religion out of it. Because if there was a major god of religion manipulating people back then, now if I can renew it and put it in a book and put a new god on it, then they can be manipulated that way, right? That's what the Pope did and all these. If you watch this documentary, Church History to Present, 0 to present, 2000 AD or something like that, 33 to present, you'll see what I'm talking about. These people have created 10,000 teachings for no reason. Millions of teachings. And so I look at Ham. So I look at the covenant like, if you look at the 10 Commandments, it's really the first 6 are like 6 phrases, and then I put "Thou shalt not rape" on it because what the. So then it makes 12, 6 and 8. And so if you pay attention, Noah had 8 passengers. Oh, this is so irritating. Fuck. Noah had 8 passengers. And he got off the ark at 600 years old. JB6. That's some. And I might have said some things before, but it's okay. I was reproofing my forefathers and mother. And then the 8th beast will come out the ark. Thou shalt not rape. Mother. Y'all got my ass. Fuck. That which you hate can come back in later and save your life and be the thing you become to save the world. That's some. So Ham, because Adam was the one that was life and started building anything. So when people started manipulating with it is when it went sour. Like gods and stuff. So I am who I am sent me. Right? Ham, then Tuhotep, Hem 10. Then you got Moses, the freedom from Egypt, draws from waters. I am the one who freed you from the land of Egypt, from the bondage of slavery. Then you have like Joshua, no gods before who I am. The Redeemer, because for real, I told you all in the video back before, called The Life We Deserve. When I read, y'all shall have no gods before who I am, boom, it jumped back. I was like, what the, this is so prophetic. Then you have the second one, no idols under the earth and sea, and in the heavens, the heart, the flesh, or in the deep books or peoples, or the deep conscience. So when I say that, like you can have things that you like and love and all that, but remember, I am the Most High, and who I am is manifested. So don't just, you know what I mean. So I like cartoons and magic, all that type of stuff, but I'm clear and I'm clarity, and I pay attention to what's real, so I don't manipulate reality. And So then you look at, you shall have no idols. That's like Elijah, remember? He said, I'm not worshiping no Baals. I'm the last one and I still won't bow. And Elijah was really pivotal in my journey because back to Joshua 2, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. That was pivotal. And to fight Pharaoh in the first place, Moses, once again. And so then you have the first three. Then, like I said, the fourth phrase, like Elijah, no idols. So he took out all the prophets and he removed the pagan gods and stuff and rebuilt the altar. And then he brought down the fires that don't consume. There's something I did, but I don't like saying it over and over just for clout. So you'll see it in a few of my videos. But then don't bow to no gods or no idols. Then you have don't bow to them. That's the fifth. And Yehohanan came in the fifth seal with the martyrs. That is crazy. Awesome. Holy, holy, holy. That is awesome. That is holy. I'm sorry. Thank you. So, then Yehohanan came, and then the sixth, or don't bow to them, don't worship them, for I'm jealous. Like a husband and his wife, the bride will come for the bridegroom. Don't take who I am in vain. For your honesty, I'll make you the fourth commandment out of the six. Yahweh 6, JB 6. Yehanan and Yehohanan. What the? Don't take who I am in vain. Do not forsake my name. And then the 8 commandments. That's crazy, which makes 12. And then the 12 tribes come together and Israel's redeemed. Egypt and Samaria. Mother. So yeah. So they used Noah to tear up people up and flood the earth instead of doing it righteously. They used Aaron to create a real matrix of being lost for 3 days because it manifested. And Joshua, Elijah, and John the Baptist had to deal with it. And so did I, who I am, the fourth. And Joshua said he will impregnate it himself and had twins. That's fucking... Because Muhammad came back like Zoroaster, and Juan came back like John the Baptist. That's... I keep telling y'all be insulting Muhammad and stuff. Tell y'all there's beautiful Muslims Muhammad taught not to... Read the dude's words. And they were manipulated afterward. It's still beautiful. He found Gabriel in a cave, Moses in the 10 Commandments, and taught don't have no gods in reform the Middle East. And then me. That's salvation from the wilderness. Muhammad and Juan, Zoroaster and John. That's really cool. But yeah, alright, so I'll talk to y'all later. And beware of, like I said, I've refined Peter and Paul, do what you gonna do. But if I see people stoning people in Leviticus and Peter and Paul and all this other foolishness and using Samuel words to go slay entire villages and kids and all that, take Samuel and the Lord God off of that. That's what you are. His I am. I'm trying to tell y'all. So, pay attention. Do what you need to do to survive. Keep who you are safe in your Jerusalem and be beautiful. Because I can't tell you how to live. That's your life. That's your heart. That's your heaven. But one thing I do put before who I am is the 10 Commandments. And then when I got to the garden, I used that like the ring of fire and the stone that protects, like the flaming sword and the cherubim inside. And then I created the 2 trees for my garden and a little river to lead to who I am.